Here is Power Girl number 11, which came out last week on July 24th, 2024. And I got it in the mail yesterday. I have a subscription. I got it on July 30th, so the following week. Sometimes subscriptions are, as I've mentioned in a previous video, sometimes the subscription copies come early, sometimes they come late, sometimes they come way late. So this wasn't too bad, just the following week it showed up, and in perfect condition. Now, when I had seen the solicitation for this cover, 3 months ago or whenever, I had an idea of what it might be like, what the story might be like. Because Power Girl's going to go on a date, and it says, roses are red, kryptonite is green. And it looks like he has some kryptonite among his roses. And she's all dressed to go on a date, right? And it had been mentioned in the previous issues that she was going to go on this date with this guy. So finally we're going on the date. The funny thing is this picture sort of gives an idea of like what the issue is going to be like, which is not what the issue is like at all. Seeing this picture, I sort of imagined that, the guy picks her up. He's actually like a villain. He has kryptonite with him. He's going to trap her or try to kill her. And, maybe he's some obsessed fan or something. They go to a restaurant, and maybe she figures out that he's, trying to kill her. So then maybe there's a big fight at the restaurant. And then at the end of the thing, she, defeats the guy and then goes home and says she had a bad date. I thought that's what the story was going to be like. Well, it's not like that at all. There's no restaurant. There's no kryptonite. There is a date. That's the only thing that's true about this. Now, if you don't want to know about this story, if you don't want spoilers, don't watch this video. These first few pages were actually shown in the previews of, if you go to Comics Now, COMIXNOW.com, they always have previews of the new current DC Comics, and it's usually just the first 3 pages or so. So these have already been shown online. But I like the issue. Maybe I should get that. I enjoy Power Girl. It's a very light read. It's sort of an entry-level comic. It's a good comic for someone who isn't following DC Comics, doesn't know that much about the history of DC Comics, doesn't want to read a comic that's going to be intersecting with, crossing over with a whole bunch of other comics. You don't have to know the whole big history. I don't even know Power Girl's, whole history. It's kind of convoluted history anyways. So, on the other hand, it is, like I said, a very light read. It might be a little too cutesy for some readers. This is probably an ideal comic for like a teenage girl, whereas like a teenage boy might like something like Avengers, something that is going to have, or Conan or Transformers, something that's going to have some action and it's going to be very more serious. Whereas this is more into funny and cute. And as you'll see, as the issue goes through, it sort of confounds the trope of the superhero comic. Ultimately, as we get to the end here, you'll see that it's not doing what superhero comics normally do. So let's see here. It starts out, and in a way, I kind of wonder if the writer is like trolling. There are a lot of haters on YouTube about Power Girl. If you look on the YouTubers, the usual YouTubers, there are those YouTubers that are anti-woke, and always complaining about something, especially new comics. But you also have some that are just, not those type of people that still don't like the comic. They just think it's not Power Girl. She's acting out of character and whatever. I've talked about that in my previous video, reviewing the previous issue, number 10. This is issue number 11. This is going to be in that same vein where the things that people don't like about this series are probably going to be, just more of the same. Now, the funny thing is one difference is it's drawn by a different artist than usual. So Power Girl does look a little like her usual self. Like if you remember, Power Girl before this series, how she looked a little more similar to that. She looks sexier, whereas previously she didn't look as sexy. That sort of was de-emphasized. This is, in fact, I should show the credits here. Written by Leah Williams, drawn by Adriana Mello, who I've not heard of before. But it's good art, but there are some problems. There are some things I just don't think makes much sense. So, Paige, Power Girl Secret Identity, she's nervous about her date with this guy named Axel. So she's floating above Omen's bed in the middle of the night, and keeps like using her teleporting, like she can punch through different portals in space or whatever to get around. And so she's reminiscing about how she had pushed Omen in the water one time, and Omen had got back at her, and it's this kind of farce of they're just in the middle of the night and aggravating each other. Now the thing is that they're supposed to be, I would assume, they have their own apartment. They have 2 different rooms, as was shown in a different, they sleep in 2 different beds, although you'll see at one point here they're in the same bed. They're adults, but they kind of act like kids, I've brought this up in a previous video. It's almost like I've, Betty and Veronica, but Betty and Veronica actually kind of act a little more mature than this, But, anyway, so they skews a little younger, but, and Paige doesn't know what a suplex is, so she has to explain it to her. Anyways, she gets a text, or she actually texts the guy. This is Axel Gust is his name, the guy that she's going on a date with. Now, it's in the middle of the night, but Omen's like, oh, you're going to wake up this guy, but he's doing this thing. Now, he kind of had been portrayed in past issues as like this cat burglar type guy, and that's what it looks like he's doing here, where he's all dressed in black and he's like in some room doing something. So after reading this issue, I had to go through all my Power Girl comics of the current series, and I was like, what's this guy's history? Is he being portrayed like how he always had been? So the guy was actually introduced in issue number 1. Like I said, this is issue number 11. So this was almost a year ago. He was introduced, and he meets Paige Stelter. He looks kind of nerdy. And he says he's Axel Gust, and he's trying to recruit her for his organization. And she kind of assumes that he's CIA, and he doesn't correct her. And then this stuff happens. Power Girl shows up and fights this villain, and so on. So then we see him again later in issue number 2, right there. And so, and this thing with Lois kind of is continuation in this current issue too, where Lois is talking about her column for the Daily Planet, and how, as Paige Stelter, that's sort of her job, is to be a columnist, sort of her Clark Kent identity. Anyways, she texts the guy, Axel, or she calls him actually. And again, it looks like he's a cat burglar type person. He's breaking into some place. He's all dressed in black. He's like stealing some artifacts or something. And again, it's like, we both know you're CIA, she says, but he doesn't correct her. All right, and then they go back home and stuff. She lives like a slob. But anyway, so then we don't see that guy again, except for like in issue number 6 or something like that. There's one panel that shows a flashback to issue number 1. He's in that one panel. So we don't see him again until issue number 8. And again, he's mentioned here. Omen says, oh, what about your guy? And she says, Axel. And So she goes to text Axel, and there he is as the cat burglar type guy. But then he gets grabbed by something here. This was during the whole House of Brainiac thing. And she doesn't get a reply to whether he's going to go on the date with her. And I don't think we see him again after that. So evidently at some point he replied to her text, and whatever happened to him, I don't know, and said, yeah, we can go on a date. I know this is taking forever just to get all this backstory in here, but it's kind of funny because it's like issue number 11. Unless you've been following this is kind of maybe coming out of the blue for people. Anyway, so he's going to go on the date with her. Then she falls asleep. And this is kind of silly. I mean, can you imagine? It's like Power Girl, Omen, and Streaky all lying in this bed, collapsed. She's like still wearing her costume and everything, and her jacket, That's kind of ridiculous. I mean, she just kind of gone over to her own bed. And then, taking off her clothes and stuff, Well, she's wearing a jacket to bed, but she uses her super speed to go to the Daily Planet office and talks to Lois. And Lois wants to take her off her column and have her do field work instead, where she'll be out in the field. Anyways, so they finally go on this date, and Paige is being very nerdy, talking about fish all the time because they're at an aquarium. The art is nice, and stuff, but there's a lot of, banter and stuff like that. She's very nervous. At one point, she reaches to go grab his hand there, but that doesn't happen because then this, super villain type shows up. Behold, I am Aquas, come to free my brethren. And so the super villain shows up. So they both run off to change. He's changed into this weird... He's not wearing his black, cat burglar outfit. He's wearing this outfit instead. And they're both surprised at each other. Like, Paige? So Steel shows up to deal with his villain, while Paige and Axel are just like, there's this big misunderstanding. What, you set me up, you lied to me type of thing. And he has this power where these knives can come out of these daggers can come out of his hand. And so Steel deals with the villain thing. So the whole time this villain thing is going on, they're arguing about stuff. Steel, so basically Steel saves the day, and Paige does nothing except like argue, and she's like crying, tears coming down his face, and then he's all sympathetic. So it's kind of played for laughs, it's like, this is sort of, like I had said earlier, subverting the tropes of the superhero genre. The problem is that a lot of superhero readers like to read things where those tropes are used. That's why they're reading these comics. They like to have the hero save the day. They like to have the hero act in a heroic manner and not like be all either anxiety filled or crying and so on. Now, obviously, I can't say a character like Peter Parker has a lot of problems and anxieties about things in his private role, but then he becomes Spider-Man, and then you do the Spider-Man thing where he's not very much acting like Peter Parker. He's acting much more confident. He's doing, he's saving the day. He's saving people and so on. He isn't like getting into an argument with Mary Jane or whoever, and while, Iron Man has to come and, do the saving. That wouldn't happen. So I think that this is the kind of scene that is really going to annoy and tick off a lot of the haters. But it's kind of playing with the trope. It's kind of making fun of it's kind of trying to be unpredictable and funny. And in that sense, it works. Now, he has a secret, and it sounds like he's not a bad guy. And he wants to show her something. And he says, let me take you where I'm from, Asgard, and they go through some portal. So he looks very different. Um, like, why did he need to climb up the roof of or climb up the side of the buildings as a cat burglar using ropes and everything if he can just teleport places? Maybe he can only teleport to Asgard? I don't know. I don't know what this is all about. So this was a bit of a surprise to me. And like I said, it doesn't really have anything to do with the cover. Let's see what the next issue blurb, if it gives the title there. It just says Valhalla awaits. Next time in Power Girl. So it's interesting, it's different, it's unusual, unpredictable. But it's funny, it's cute, but your enjoyment of this issue is going to depend on your tolerance for cuteness. You know, if you aren't really into cuteness, if you're not into funny, if you're not into the meet cute and not into, you know, the funny date and the funny banter and all that, if that's not why you read superhero comics, and if that's why you don't read Power Girl. You know, there was another funny thing here, too, where he talks about her being hot. He's surprised that Paige is Power Girl because he's like, you can't be Power Girl because Power Girl is hot. And so she's mad, and he was like, no, not that you're not hot. It seems like a silly thing because Power Girl being quote-unquote hot, well, that's probably not the most identifiable characteristic if you're living in Metropolis. You know, Power Girl is someone who flies, who has superpowers, you know. So that's why you would say, oh, somebody is not somebody, because it's like, you are super powered, you're like Superman. You know, it's not like, I mean, I can't imagine like Lois Lane saying something like that about Clark Kent. Oh, you can't be Superman because you're ugly, you know. You're not good looking. It's like, well, or also because you're a weakling and you're not super strong like Superman is. I think that would probably be what she would say. So that seems maybe sort of done for laughs, you know. Why would he say something like that? But anyways, but like I said, even though this sounds like a very critical review, I'm just sort of anticipating the criticisms that some people would have with this issue. And so I understand those criticisms, but I nonetheless enjoyed the issue. I am enjoying the series, and I look forward to seeing what happens next. The artwork is good in this issue. I liked it a lot. It does make Power Girl look more like Power Girl. So I don't know if this is going to be the new regular artist or if this is just a fill-in artist or what. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. I recommend it if you like fun comics. If you're not into fun comics, maybe read Superman instead if you're looking for more, or action comics, you know, more of an action-oriented thing. But if you like fun comics, something like this or Shazam might be up your alley. Thanks for watching.